guys, welcome to another Kerbal Space Program video. Today we're going to be starting a new career mode. This will be sort of a walkthrough series I'm doing to kind of help out new people playing the game since it's more accessible on console and everything. I see a lot of new players kind of showing up, and I remember how frustrated I got when I first played this game trying to get to orbit the first time because training missions help, but they don't do as much as I'd like them to. But we're just going to run this at our basic stock difficulty. We're going to pop over to the mission control and grab these first two missions. You need to grab these before you do anything else. If you don't and you launch your first vessel, you just miss out on the funds. But we only really have the one booster, the one cab, and the one parachute, and then we're going to slap on three of these mystery goo units. Uh, we're going to be using a pilot for a lot of these beginning stages, and they can't reset those, but it's more because they have the SAS control, which makes flying a little easier early in the game. But yeah, just go ahead and give it a name and go ahead and put it on the launch pad. Now that we're on the launch pad, we're going to go ahead and do the mystery goose experiment. We're going to do a crew report. We're going to EVA out of the capsule, do an EVA report, and then we're going to grab the data from the capsule. When you do that, it resets the crew report options. You can do it multiple times. Until you upgrade the astronaut complex, you are not able to leave the ship unless you're landed. Once you upgrade that, though, you can, like, once you're in orbit, you can repeat experiments multiple times if need be. But we're just going to kind of shoot off, run these experiments, and aim towards the water. The water is a different biome from the launch pad, so you get, the mystery goo experiment will actually give you more science. You get dwindling science from repeating experiments in the same spot. We're just gonna go ahead and let it land. Now, typically you can get out of the capsule and do the EVA report in the water and do the crew report again. For some reason, it would not let me leave the ship. But if you're able to do it, go ahead and do it. We really only need 35 science from this mission. We're gonna go ahead and grab a couple of missions here in just a second. We're gonna get the Escape the Atmosphere main mission, and then I'm gonna do a random launchpad mission just to get some extra funds. You're limited to 2 missions per until you upgrade this building, and we're not gonna be orbiting quite yet, so might as well use that other slot to get some sort of funding, especially since we can use the booster to do this next part anyways. We're gonna unlock the first 2 nodes, and then we're gonna unlock the bottom node on the 3rd tree. That's gonna give us some more experiments, get more science, unlock more parts. I focus really heavy on the bottom in the beginning of the game. Anyways, we're just going to kind of do the same similar setup, but we're going to throw on the two mystery goo units and then 2 barometers and 2 thermometers. You could actually do 3 of these if you'd like, because each level of the atmosphere is a different area to do an experiment. You got on the very top, there's those 3 different color blues on the atmosphere line. Each one of those is a different section of atmosphere, so you can do the experiment in each of those sections. Slap on a heat shield just in case, take most of it off. And then we're going to do a couple of tanks and a swivel engine. You can do 3 or 4 if you want to get a little bit more, but this is kind of the bare minimum of what we need. We're just going to kind of shoot straight up and turn towards the end. You don't want to come straight back down from the atmosphere because you won't be able to bleed off enough speed. So just keep that in mind. We're going to go ahead and run these 2 experiments we just got real fast. I'm going to hop out of the cab and grab the data. Now, scientists can reset the mystery goo and the science junior, but anybody could grab the data from the other experiments and reuse it. I usually just pull these out on the boxes and pin them just so I can have easier access to it. But we're gonna go ahead and launch off. I put my throttle just about half for when I hit the next stage. We're shooting straight up, and then we're gonna kind of veer over here in a second, just so we're not coming straight back down. But once we leave the atmosphere, the 70-kilometer mark, we're going to go ahead and run these experiments because we're officially, in space at this point, which will earn us better science. The farther you are away from the planet, the more science is worth. That's why going to min-miss is usually the better option for science playthroughs, but in career mode, it wants you to do the mun first, so that's how we're going to run it. Anyways, we're just going to go ahead and fall back down. We're going to run a couple of experiments while we're, in the upper atmosphere part, just so we can get a little extra science, and then just kind of hold on the prograde marker and just fall back down to the water. I actually do get out and do the crew report and the EVA report from the water because it lets me this time. If you've already done these experiments, don't bother in repeating them because, again, you get dwindling science from repeating the experiment in the same biome. And since we've been to the water a couple of times, we won't really get a whole lot of science from it. If you weren't able to, like I was, go ahead and do it now just to get the extra science points. Now, we are a little short to get everything we need to go into orbit because we're going to want the Terrier engine and the Science Boy Jr. You'll see here in a second, I'm like 4 science short. Hopefully you grabbed 3 of each of those experiments and you have enough. And if you do have enough to unlock both of these, just go ahead and do the orbit. You don't have to do this next mission, but we're going to grab a random mission that we can do easily and orbit Kerbin, because again, funds are important. We're going to upgrade the mission control and the tracking station, because that will allow us to make maneuver nodes, which will make your life a lot easier in this game. We're going to grab the top rocketry tree, get that Science Boy Jr. at the very bottom of the 4th tree, and realize we're a little short to get the Terrier, which we want to do the orbital flight. So I'm just going to slap together a little hopper with the Science Boy Jr., shoot it over into the water, just to grab the couple extra pieces of science I need so I can actually get the Terrier engine. Again, if you already have the Terrier unlocked, you can just skip this part. There's no need to do it. But again, just kind of pop up, float over to the water. We're going to land real quick. I'm going to kind of speed through this part. And just so we can get the enough science so we can get the Terrier unlocked. And the next thing you're going to see is us building the orbital rocket to get into orbit for the first time, which is what we all came here for, the main part of the mission. Either way, I'm just going to kind of slowly float down, hit the water, do the experiment. We're all good to go. Now let's get that rocket into orbit. So there's a couple different ways to do this. I'm going to show you a real basic way. Just the basic landing cab, put the parachute on it. We have a mission to test these other 2 parachutes out. You don't need them. It's a little overkill, but we are going to keep that Science Boy Jr. attached to us since we can't EVA yet and grab the data, so we want to try to save it, which 1 parachute isn't always enough. There's actually a couple other tricks I'm going to show you a little bit later in the video. We're going to slow this part down just since it's the main focus of the video. We're going to slow it down so you guys can kind of see it in more depth. But just a single mystery goo unit, 2 barometers and 2 thermometers. Just kind of a couple extra just in case we need them. I'll explain the mystery goo unit here shortly since we've already kind of hit every different zone with the mystery goo unit. We're going to do something else once we're in orbit. Then you want to slap on a heat shield into the decoupler, and you can shave the heat shield. I just leave it normal for now. It doesn't really matter. But an FT400 tank and a Terrier. That's the main point of this. That's what's going to get us into orbits, circularize, and then come back down. And then we're going to slap on a decoupler. I do 3 of the FT400 tanks, and then I had 200 tank, and then a swivel. You could actually just do 4 of these tanks if you'd like. A little more fuel just in case you're not as efficient in your flight. Just the thrust to weight ratio isn't as high as I'd like it to be from the launch pad. That swivel engine isn't as powerful as Reliant, but the gimbal is what we want. You'll actually see me here kind of check out everything, and I decided to go with a 200 tank instead. If you hit that little orange button towards the bottom there that has the total delta V number, it'll bring out the sidebars and you can see like your thrust away, etc., from wherever you are in the staging. If you actually go to the little delta V unit on the bottom, you can see like atmospheric and everything else. Anyways, we're gonna go ahead and just get these set up, and then we're gonna launch straight up at full throttle until we're about 50 meters a second and slowly start tipping to the 90-degree point, or in this case, right. I'm a little overzealous at first on this. You don't have to be as aggressive as I am. Just take it nice and slow. And you'll want to hit that 45-degree mark by the time you hit about 10K. Once I get to about 200 meters a second, I cut the throttle to just above half and just slowly kind of glide over. As you can see, I'm a little bit closer to the 45 than I'd recommend. You want to be about where I am at 70,000, or sorry, 7,000. And then we're going to hit the 45-degree mark, and you're going to hold it until your time to the top of your orbit is at 55 seconds. I have the little box in the bottom left corner. If you are on console, open up the map, especially since you upgraded those buildings, and just kind of highlight the top of your orbit. It will tell you about how far away you are. Once you hit 55 seconds, you want to start pointing prograde and max your throttle out just to get a little extra speed. Go into couple, and we're going to let the Terrier take over. We're going to keep this at a max throttle the entire time and just follow the prograde marker. We're going to do that until the top of our orbit hits about 80 kilometers, right around there. 70 is the atmospheric line zone. 80 just gives you some wiggle room, just in case you need it. Let you be up in space a little bit longer too, so we really get to use the efficiency of the Terrier. Once we hit that 80K point though, we're going to cut the throttle, pop over to the map screen, and we're going to create a maneuver node at the very top of the orbit and just drag the prograde marker out until you see both of the little icons start to switch like this. That's about as circular as you'll get without doing fine-tune adjustments. We're not going to keep the orbit like that. We're going to change it here in a moment. But I'll get to that when we get to it. We're just going to go ahead and speed up to the line. We're going to get lined up with that target node, the little blue triangle thing, and then we're going to make our burn. If you play on science mode or without Kerbal experience, you can actually lock onto that. But again, we're running the base game, so we're going to manually do this. We'll go ahead and just do our burns real quick. And then we're going to pop over to the map screen and actually watch it circularize. If you want to get more fine tuning, cut the throttle before you get to the end of the node and just lightly throttle up, just so where you can get a little more accurate. Again, we're just shooting to get into orbit. We have enough fuel. The ship's a little over-designed. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and burn prograde here and push the top of our orbit up to about 400,000. This way we're going to be high above Kerbin in space rather than just above Kerbin in space. Every planet has this, a high and a low point, and you can get scientific experiments from both of them. Same way the atmospheric, the blue lines work as well. So I'm just going to come up here, grab that mystery U unit, get a little extra experiment, or I guess a little extra science data. And the farther you are away from the planet, the more these experiments become worth, which is why doing Minimus before the Mun for a science playthrough is the best way to go, since Minimus is easier to land on. But we're in career mode, which they want you to do the Mun first. So we're just going to go ahead and warp back down here. We're going to aim for about 45 kilometers. We don't want to come in too aggressive because that Science Boy Junior does not have very good heat resistance, even with that heat shield. It could blow up and then we'll lose all the data we just got. So we're just going to kind of go ahead and bleed off our speed here. We're going to keep the engine on for a little while until we get to a certain point, and then we're going to go ahead and decouple the engine. We're letting it kind of take the brunt of the heat initially, so the Science Boy Junior gets protected. And then we're going to go ahead and decouple this and let gravity take over and do the rest of the work. Once you kind of got to this point, as long as you're not too aggressive, you've pretty much successfully done the mission. Now you got to launch the parachute still, which we'll do here in a second, and you'll see how overkill it is. Mostly just because it's those parachutes are pretty hefty for what we have, so we're gonna fall down really, really slow. So I'm just gonna kind of speed through this real fast. The 4 meters a second, it probably took a good minute and a half to actually hit the ground. But we have officially hit orbit. Let's go ahead and grab our science. We're gonna hop into the R&D building and unlock the solar panels, which is the very bottom on the 5th tech tree line. We're gonna need those to do our Mun flyby. And yeah, it's right here, the electronics. We're gonna go ahead and unlock this. And then I'd also recommend getting general construction and fuel systems next. Once you have the science form, they help in making boosters. There's a lot of other good reasons to have those, but we don't have enough to unlock those quite yet. We'll be doing those soon. Either way, we're gonna have the stability as well because of that side coupler. We're gonna need that. But either way, this is kind of what we were aiming to do today. We made it into orbit. I hope you guys learned at least something. I want to thank you guys for watching my video. If you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover, feel free to let me know in the comments, or you can try to direct message me too. I'm really bad about responding though. If there's also any questions you have, feel free to let me know, and I can go ahead and try to answer them. But yeah, this will be a couple different episodes and series. We're going to get to Duna and probably end it there. That's about all you really need to know to get started in career mode. Once you get to that point, you should be good enough to kind of take the reins and just kind of do what you want. Anyways, thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day, and I'll let you guys go.